Hey everybody, this is episode 3 of the Flow State with Sean and Tyler LaFlock. In this episode, we talk about purpose, finding our purpose, and I rehash my medical school pursuit experience. And then we go on to talking about determining your value, whether your value is determined by your bank account or who you are. Guys, if you like this podcast, please go on, read it, review it, and share it with your friends. We're available on the Google Play Marketplace, iTunes, Spotify, or you can download it from Spreaker. And guys, enjoy the podcast. I do it's a mix of salsa, like salsa verde, and then I put like tomato paste and that kind of stuff. I put it in a slow cooker.
Nice.
Yeah.
It sounds fucking delicious.
Do you ever use a slow cooker?
I've used it before, but no, nothing recently.
Pretty much all I use.
Yeah,
So much more convenient.
so much more. Because then you can cook whenever you want. You don't have to cook at night. You can cook at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I came home. I started. For this one, you literally have to put the chicken in. You take 2 containers of salsa, put it in there. I think the only thing I have to chop is an onion. I just slice an onion.
Really? Everything else just throw in the pot?
Yep.
Was the chicken already washed and everything? And
You don't wash chicken.
no.
No.
You just throw it right in. What type of chicken? Chicken thighs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thighs that'll cross your eyes. Throw a couple bay leaves in here, like that one. Bay leaves.
Ooh. What type of slow cooker do you have?
Just like a regular crock pot. My girlfriend, I just got her an Instapot, which is like a pressurized one.
Better? Worse?
It cooks much faster.
Oh.
So a pressure cooker, the idea is that because there's so much pressure, the cooking temperature gets a lot hotter.
Right.
Because the point at which water boils becomes much higher.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so
As you add pressure, the boiling point rises.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. That makes sense. I remember that in science.
So the moisture in the chicken, the water will get hotter and hotter and hotter, so it cooks the whatever you're doing from the inside out more.
Right. Oh, cool.
So it's hard to actually get like hot water on like high mountaintops because the pressure's so low. So like if you're on the top of a mountain and you melt, you're like, oh, I have water all around me. But if you melt snow, like, and you want to make like a cup of tea, it'll just evaporate instantaneously because it doesn't actually heat.
Right. Oh, cool.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I remember learning this in science and not completely forgetting about it, but now that makes sense. I just had some yogurt, so I'm a little like like that lactose-y.
You get phlegmy from yogurt, huh?
A little phlegmy, just a little bit. A little phlegmy.
You get phlegmy?
Yeah. It's a little in the back of my throat. It's like spit. Like a yogurty spit.
Yogurty spit.
Yeah.
Is there anything worse than the smell of yogurt when you're working out?
Oh, it smells like throw up in a way.
Sour
Yeah.
milk.
Sour milk. I just anything that is like very potent as you're working out, I get very upset. Like if somebody sprays cologne as they're getting ready, I'm like, God damn it! Like, fuck you, gotta spray in like this gym. I'm trying to breathe through my nose right now. I'm breathing in your fucking Aqua Velva.
You're an Aqua Velva guy, huh? We have a business that everybody smokes, and it's like literally next door. So they come outside and you get wafting of smoke.
And you've told them before, right? You've told them like multiple times.
No, I'm so much of a pussy. I kind of said it in passing, but they're like, whatever.
We had the same thing back at in Port Jeff in the first gym we were at.
Yep.
Just people next door smoked and
what would you say?
Breathing it. We would just ask them if they were to smoke, just to not smoke in front of our gym. But obviously, since it's a garage gym and they're walking out in the parking lot, they're gonna come and meander in front of the garage, and the smoke's gonna get in. But It wasn't anything too bad, but
Yeah, that sucks.
yeah. The other one is we have a Chipotle right on top of us, so you'll
Oh
be
my
like
God.
maybe in one part of the gym, and you just smell the Chipotle cooking up, and you're just like mouth starts watering.
Do you have people just running in there and having diarrhea? Just the Chipotle runs.
Smell, yeah, just from the smell.
Hot, goosebump driven diarrhea. If you're not
Yeah,
having
this.
hot, goosebump, acidic diarrhea from Chipotle, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I haven't actually had it in a while.
I haven't had
Pretty
Chipotle in
crazy.
like over a year, I think.
Yeah,
I go to
because you just. What are your 3 go-to crockpot Instapot recipes or crockpot
I
recipes?
like the chicken salsa verde.
Mm-hmm.
If you Google like keto chicken salsa verde, that'll come up.
Okay.
Um, I do chili. The only thing with the chili is you have to like chop a bunch of like vegetables and put it in there. I mean, you could just do the meat if you really wanted to, and then I brown the meat ahead of time.
Mm.
Some people don't call it chili; they call it goulash, and those people are stupid. But
Mm.
it's chili; it just doesn't have beans.
Oh, okay.
It's a little thinner too. I don't really know how to make it thick. Maybe add like a little cornstarch or something like that to it to thicken it a little bit.
But if I bought the vegetables pre-chopped, would it make it easier?
Yeah, but you still got to brown the meat and clean the pans if you're going to brown the meat.
Right. So,
But honestly, we're talking like a half-hour prep,
right.
and I'll make. I mean, I've made before 4 pounds of meat in the chili,
Wow.
so that would be probably about
4 meals?
no, it'll be like 6 meals.
6 meals. That makes sense. Yeah. Pound of meals a little bit
A
overdoing
little bit
it.
because it's also like probably about 2 pounds of vegetables. I throw like 6 carrots, 6 stalks of celery, three bell peppers, a jalapeno, and then I do like an entire can of crushed tomatoes, an entire can of tomato sauce, and then an entire can of diced tomatoes. So that right there is like
Wait, so
two.
3 types of tomatoes? So diced tomatoes, tomato paste,
So
and
many
tomato?
tomatoes. Well, that's the basis of chili.
Right.
You know, it's the tomato base most chilies.
Right. And then what do you do? Do you just like throw it on top of rice?
Yeah, I'll throw rice on top of it. Throw a little avocado if you want to do a little queso.
That's nice.
That's nice. And I do it with grass-fed beef, so it's cheaper.
Right. And then, so those are 2, and then you have one more that you normally do, or
Yeah,
no?
I'll do chicken soup.
With the soda on the side?
That'll be chicken noodle soup. Chicken soup
Uh,
is just chicken soup, chicken soup, chicken soup, chicken soup. That's how that goes. That's the chicken soup
mm,
song. Anyway, chicken soup, chicken thighs, throw them in there. Then I'll do whatever vegetables I like. Like sometimes I'll put fennel in there, also known as like green onion.
hmm Well,
No,
fennel's got
fennel's
more
different.
like a licoricey. No, fennel's like more licoricey.
Yeah, green onion's different. Those are scallion.
Yeah, scallions. Yeah,
Scallywags, as I like to call them. And the brothers Green call them scallywags. Okay. Anyway, I'll do that, or I'll do just regular onions, celery, and then carrots. I add like a good amount of ginger to it. So there's like if you go to Target, they have frozen ginger. They come in like little cubes, and you can just throw it in there and they melt. Or you can do just like the tubed one, but the tubed one has some like preservatives in it. So I just like to use the frozen ginger cubes.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'll throw a few things of garlic in there, and then I'll just do salt, pepper, maybe some garlic powder, onion powder, and then some herb de Provence, which has lavender, thyme, and a bunch of other different herbs. And that's it. Throw it on there for 4 hours, and you have chicken soup. Actually, you cover it in water, so it kind of makes a broth, or you can add some chicken broth to it if you want to. You can even do that like with just a whole chicken, just like kind of basically break down a whole chicken and put it in there. And then when it's done, you pick the chicken of the meat, and then the bones will flavor it as well.
Mm.
And you get the collagen. You get the collagen from the bones. You know what I'm saying?
Save me the bones.
Save me the bones. What is that from?
I think it was from Space Ghost Coast to Coast,
Yes.
and it was like the
That
the
weird fucking thing.
the bug guy would be like,
Yes,
save me the
save me the
bones.
bones. Weird.
What time you have lacrosse today?
Uh, 3:30 practice starts, but I usually leave my house a little after 3. Now
Okay.
we're in the swing of things. I don't have to bring equipment and stuff like that, so I'm good to go. But we've already began the podcast. I don't know about you. I've been recording for the last 9.5 minutes. So.
Have you really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, jeez.
This is the good stuff
Perfect.
right here, man. This is behind the scenes. Anyway, so you had a topic that you wanted to talk about there, Tyler. Want to shoot?
Yeah. So the idea of just expectations and kind of where you are right now, where you thought you'd be, and just not the gap between the two, but like the feelings that come up and the thought of am I in the right place, or the doubt behind it.
Okay. So what are your thoughts? Or are you asking me that question?
Well, my thoughts on it are like this idea of, with this being tied down to a purpose in a way, and the idea that like purpose can always shift, and it's transforming. So what could have meaning and purpose to you at one moment can change and grow to a next moment. So not dealing with the pressure of like finding my meaning or finding my purpose, but knowing that throughout life you'll have different times and be connected to different things, and that kind of helps with the whole idea of the pressure of trying to find your true calling in a way.
Well, I think that it's a fallacy that you have a true calling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when people like have a purpose, like they're like, I'm here to do this. I'm here to change the world. I'm here to share my gift. I think a lot of those people are very ego driven. Like they're forcing life. I know for me personally, like one of the things that I always wanted to do was become a doctor. And as I was going through undergrad, well, first off, I was my senior year of high school, and Tyler, you know this, but for those listening at home or in the potty or at work, when I was in high school, my senior year of high school, I did a program called New Visions, which was a pseudo internship, but it was a like an enhanced course or an advanced course, and it gave high school students the opportunity to be like hospital interns. And 3 days a week, I was doing rounds in the hospital, and then 2 days a week, I was doing college level classes. One of them was anatomy and physiology and medical terminology. That was on Fridays with this nurse. Her name was Karen Smith. And then the Mondays, we'd have a college writing class and a public policy class. And then Tuesday through Thursday, we would be in the hospital in a different area. We would spend a month in a different spot. And I believe there was about a half a dozen students who did this program. And, I was gung-ho about becoming a doctor. I always thought I was going to be a doctor. I always want to help people. I always found myself actually very, like, I fit in to the whole doctor thing. You know what I mean? Like, I had very good steadiness in high intensity situations. I enjoyed biology and the body. Like, I've always enjoyed the body and how the body works. I, like, if someone broke their leg or something like that, I would be there. I'd have that poise in those situations to be like, okay, this is what we need to do. I'm not going to be emotional here. And from there, after I graduated high school, then I went to undergrad. I was playing lacrosse, and I was doing like a pre-med track. And there really is no pre-med. You can do whatever you want and still go to medical school. But I studied biology, and with an intent to take my MCAT. So that's one of the reasons why you will take a some kind of science track, whether it's chemistry or physics or biology. And I went through biology undergrad, but I also had to take as a prerequisite for graduating with a biology degree. You have to take chemistry, organic chemistry, You have to take mammalian physiology, which was the hardest class I've ever taken. I think my final project was a 70-page lab report.
Oh God.
You know how many pages that is? 70. So
60 too many.
so many pages.
You should never have to write over anything over 10.
But I got it done. And it was pretty cool because it's like one of those things you're like, I can't do this. And then you do it. And you're like, oh, I did it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, I can't sit for an hour and just like sit. And you do it. And you're like, oh, I did it. So like when you get over the hump of like the expectation that it should be this way, going back, calling back what you were talking about, you just get it done. So after that, I graduated. Sorry. I graduated. And I took my MCATs. I'm like, all right, let's see how this goes. And I got a 22.
What do you need to get?
What's that?
Or not what do you need to get, but like, what would be a score?
Like the mean to get into medical school is 30. So I was a full 8 points off. And you're like, oh, 8 points, that's not bad. I'm like, that's like you're 30% off.
Oh, no. So what would that be? Like if you could, let's say that a 30 is like let's compare it to the SAT. Like 1,600 is the best you can do on an SAT.
Put it this way. You need to run a 6-minute mile, and I ran a 6:40 mile. And just imagine how hard it would be to get from a 6:40 mile to a 6-minute mile.
Ooh, that
right?
sucks.
So I was like, okay, now what the fuck do I do? Because I was, that summer, I was still coaching lacrosse, and I was lucky enough to be coaching the chief of spine surgery's son. And the chief of spine surgery at the time at the hospital for special surgery was this guy, Dr. Frank Camisa. And I coached his son, and I came up to him one day. I'm like, hey, Frank, I'm trying to go to medical school, and I was wondering if you guys had any opportunities in your labs at the hospital. And he goes, yeah, I'll set you up with my lady Celeste Bjornsson, and Bjornsson, and Swedish name or some kind of Scandinavian name. She worked for Synthes Spine, which is a company out of Westchester, Pennsylvania. And I interviewed, and they were like, yeah, I mean, you got the spot. And, it's basically just being an intermediary between the biomechanics department of the Hospital for Special Surgery and Synthes. So as a product that needs to be FDA approved, you have to have ongoing analyses of the implants that you put in. So they specialized in spinal implants. So their spinal implants they have to allocate a certain amount of funding from their, like what they make, to make sure that the product is good. So the lab that I was working in was doing just that. They were verifying that the product was good, publishing studies, et cetera, et cetera. So I was doing that, but I also got piggybacked into a bunch of other biomechanics projects, like knee replacement, hip replacement. I got to meet all sorts of medical students and interns and residents and fellows, and I got to do surgeries on rabbit models and help out with that. And then I got to scrub in. It was just a great opportunity to get like huge amount of exposure to the to like being a surgeon and also being within a hospital, because this hospital is like a great teaching hospital, the Hospital for Special Surgery, and it's part of New York Presbyterian, which is Cornell Weill, and that is actually where we were born. It was formerly New York Hospital, and that's where all of us were born, Tyler.
I don't know that.
Yeah, so I was like, working at the hospital that I was born at. I was up in 71st in New York on the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
Yeah, I went and visited mommy there when she had her hip replaced.
Yeah, exactly. That's where she got her hip replaced.
Yeah.
So fast forward about a year, and that summer also I was taking a MCAT course, and I got a 28 on the MCAT.
So you're closing in on it a little bit.
I'm closing in. Yeah, well, I took a course. I spent, I think it was over $1,000 on a Kaplan course. Mm-hmm. And, you really learn. They teach you, and they teach you how to take the test, and they teach you like what you need to get better at. And I might have taken probably like 10 practice tests, and each test is like 6 to 8 hours long.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I was pretty dedicated to doing it. And it just, I got 28, and I was like, all right, well, now what? So I was like, all right, I'm going to spend.
How old were you again?
This is 22, 23. Because I had my idea in my mind. I'm like, yo, I got to be a doctor. Like, let's go.
Right.
So I talked to this guy, Dr. Dolan, who he's an orthopedic surgeon. He was a fellow, but he ended up, I think, ended up at like Northwestern or something like that. He told me of a program at Georgetown where they said you could do a post-bac and that feeds you into medical school at Georgetown. And obviously
Oh,
Georgetown is a
wow.
very good school, but I was like, nah, man, like I don't want to go back to school another year and to spend money, yada yada. So I was like, I'm going to try to take my MCATs again. I'll publish some papers, I'll get some good recommendations, and I'll see where this goes. So now I applied to schools with a 28, and I didn't get a single interview. Luckily enough, I got some assistance because we were so that I could apply to a bunch of medical schools for free. So I
Oh,
applied
nice.
to 12 medical schools, and none of them gave me an interview. None of them
Not
would
so
look at a
nice.
28, not one.
Ugh.
Um, Even though my GPA in college was a 3.3, which isn't great, and my natural science GPA was a 3.0, and outside natural science was like a 3.6 or 3.8 or something like that. So I
Mm.
did very, very well outside the natural sciences because the science classes are at Stony
Are
Brook are
really hard.
phenomenal. They're
Yeah.
really, and they're
Best.
super competitive because of the people that are in it. There are some really, really dedicated students there. So, um, yeah. So I ended up um, spending another year at the hospital for special surgery, and then I retook my MCATs again. I'm like, this is it. Here we go, and I got 29. I improved by 1 point.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
shit.
yeah, so I got a 29. I reapplied, and this time I had to apply with my own money. So it cost me like $1,200 to apply to schools, and still
Each?
no
$1,200.
$1,200 total. I applied to like 10 schools, so it's about
Okay.
$120 each. No
Yeah.
interviews. I had a letter from the chief of spine surgery at the like #1 hospital in the world. Great experience. Published papers. I was a lacrosse player, Division 1. No interviews. So it's 2 years later, and now I'm kind of in the middle of the summer, and or the fall, not fall, the spring. I started doing triathlon. I started getting into CrossFit. Obviously, I spent most of my time at work looking through the CrossFit Journal and looking at resources and all that kind of stuff. And that led me to meeting some people down here. And then, this is time for another story. But, I ultimately made a decision to change career paths. Right.
So that time at the hospital, you pretty much checked out at that point. Were you, because it sounded like when you were describing your time at the hospital, when you were still applying and thinking about taking the MCATs, and getting all this experience, it sounds like that was much more positive. But now as you're describing it, it sounds like your time at the hospital, did that something with your role at the hospital change, or was it similar to
No,
what it
I
was
mean, I didn't even
before?
find that it was a bad thing. I was like, this is great. Like, I still enjoy what I'm doing because I got to do what I was doing. I was just going to work, getting paid to look at the CrossFit Journal and like pursue my interest in health, like in
Mm,
wellness and fitness. And while I was doing that, I was also doing a job. Like the
right.
job was to do this and that for this company, and there are nights where I wake up now, I'm like, oh no, I didn't do this. I'm like, oh shit, like I'm not even there anymore. I'm like, thank God. It just wasn't my. It wasn't my. It was. I'm very good at making the best of a situation and just suffering through something because ultimately I know potentially there's something on the other side, but I'm not as good at knowing when to fold them and knowing when to quit, you know,
Right.
and knowing
Yeah.
when enough was enough. Like ultimately, I probably could have made a decision of like, oh, I got a 28 after busting my ass the entire summer. But at that point in my life, my focus was I have to work harder and I have to force life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it took me a year and a half to figure out like we made like if I don't really like I could have done the post back route. I got into schools in the Caribbean. I got into St. George's, and there was another one in the Caribbean that I got into. So I technically got into medical school. It just wasn't in the United States. I could have done that route, or I
Right.
could have just stayed there and took my MCATs again and just slugged it out. But I said to myself, I'm like, I sat down at a Christmas dinner at this guy. Uh, he was a attending, and he had everybody over for a Christmas dinner somewhere in Harrison, New York. And I was sitting next to a resident, and at the time I'm 23,
Mm-hmm.
and he was 28, 29. He's there with his fiance.
Mm.
And I'm like, so how's everything going? Like, do you know where you're getting your fellowship? It's a third-year residency. He's like, yeah, I think I'm going to be in here. I'm like, where do you guys stay? Like, oh, we live in the Cornell dorms. I'm like, you're 28 years old. You live in the Cornell dorms. You still have another year of residency and then another year of fellowship. And then your life probably is going to start there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm
So
like, he's starting his life at like 32 years old. I'm like, there's no way. I can't do that. Like, I can't just keep doing this, because I would have started even later, because I wouldn't have
Right.
gotten into medical school until I was 24. That's 4 years
Right.
of
So
medical school, then 5 years of residency if you want to be a surgeon, and then another year for fellowship. So I've been starting my life at like 34, 35. And again, that is what I thought at the time. I am now going to be 33 in a short amount of time, and I still haven't started my life. Like, if you thought of like you have all your shit in a row, whatever, you're eventually you're going to get to that age anyway.
right. Yeah.
So why not do it in the pursuit of something that you're really passionate about? And
Right.
that was the misconception. And if I were to go back and talk to myself when I was 22, I would say, do what you want, but know this: whatever you're going to do is going to take time. If you want to be great at a fitness career, it's going to take time. If you want to be great at being a CrossFitter, it's going to take time. If you want to make your own brand, it's going to take time. Nothing is flick of the switch in life, especially if it's worthwhile. And it's funny because I look back at it, and I was 24 when I moved down to Florida. I'm now 32, and I'm realistically probably another 2 years out from like having all the ducks in a row and having my work for me. Right? Because you eventually get to a point where you're like, all right, now I have passive income. I have all of the people I need to know. I already know them. The things I need to learn to get me into a steady state and get my feet underneath me, I know them at this point. And guess what? I'll be 34 years old.
Right.
So, it's always like that. And there's a reason why like people who are successful are usually in their late 30s to early 40s when they start really hitting their stride, because it just takes time.
Yeah.
And even if you get successful at a younger age, you still aren't even reaching your potential, but like potentially, because you haven't learned what you need to learn yet. And you haven't fucked up the things you need to fuck up yet and learn the lessons you need to learn.
Right.
Have the life
Right.
experiences.
Just that perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely. So going back to kind of like what I was circling back to the point I was making, was that, in terms of like, do you have a purpose? If you think your purpose is this and your purpose is this or death, you're trying to force it. There's a part of you that says that I'm not okay if I don't do this thing. Right? And if there's a part of you that says I'm not okay with if I don't do this thing, one, you're going to repel that thing because you're not worthy of that thing to happen. And then the other thing is you're going to self-sabotage.
Right. So like, let's give an example.
Okay, so let's give the example of this, right? So I was trying to force like going to medical school into my life.
Right.
Right? So I thought like, yo, if I don't become a doctor, there's no way I'll be able to live. So what does the universe give me? It's trying to tell me you are okay regardless if you're a doctor or not. Right? Now, if I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't care if I'm a doctor or not. I just love doing this.
Right.
I just love doing research. I just love doing medicine. I just love being with people, whatever. That might have opened up the potential for me to be like, you know what? If that's the case, then I'm going to go back to undergrad, do that post-bac, or I'm going to go to another medical school and transfer to the United States. Because it's not about me not making it. It's about me enjoying my life and doing what it is. That's my quote-unquote calling. But here's the thing. I found that. Because right now, if I am not the best coach in the world, that's okay with me.
Right.
Whereas if I wasn't the best coach in the world or best doctor in the world when I was trying to go to medical school, that wouldn't have been okay with me.
Right.
Right? So you can't have the yin without the yang. And if you're living life so unbalanced like that, the universe will give you exactly what you need for you to learn the lesson that you are not just a doctor,
Whatever.
You're not just a coach, you're not just your looks, it's going to give you everything you need and all the roadblocks you need for you to surrender to the fact that you're more than that. It's not punishing you. It's telling you, look deeper and say, yo, this isn't you. Ultimately, that might then have you decide like, oh, wait, it isn't for me. I'm not going to do this thing anymore. Or it might give you the freedom to be like, yo, I've been doing this with such
I've been
tension
trying to force it.
and force it. No one wants to be like, if you went up to everybody and just looked at them in their face and went, I'm the best coach in the world. I'm the best coach in the world. I'm the best coach in the world. Would they listen to you? No. But if you came up to me like, yo, I don't care if I'm the best coach in the world. I'm just going to coach. And if you think that's I'm the best coach in the world. Cool. If not, it's not going to define me.
Right.
Who are you more likely to be resonating with?
Right. So do you still think about, did we talk about like potential? And I think, cause that was something that I feel like is ingrained into you as like a young, you have so much potential. And it's like, and I think it's to try to use it as like an encouraging way. But for me, it like sets up like, and I think it goes back to like how we started this conversation, is like this idea of expectations and what potential, like, oh, you have to like live into your potential. So you need to accomplish this or be this by a certain point, or like maybe you're not there yet, but you'll ultimately end up like living like through your potential. So how do you think about that, or how do you view that idea of like potential and like encouraging younger, like do you see the risk in like the idea of like potential and everything like that?
Well, what's the risk in saying that they don't have potential?
Oh, you don't have potential? Oh my God, you never want to say that. Like,
Okay,
no potential, right?
So is anything good or bad? Like I don't believe. I think it's all about context and usage, right?
Right.
So I think people have limitless potential, and I think you've used examples of like David Goggins and all these other guys who are like, "Yo, we don't use our potential. We don't use our potential." Potential based on what? Based on what you think you should be, or based upon the fact that you're a limitless being flying through an orb in outer space at thousands of miles an hour, rotating around a big ball of energy that is millions of miles away. When you look at that, you're like, well, I have I can't make any impact in this universe because I'm so infinitesimally small. So what's your potential there?
Right.
Whereas if you go, do I have the potential to affect a single person's life in this world? Yeah, you do.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, it could be you. You have the potential to affect yourself. And you have the potential to be the hero of your own story, as we've said before. I know it sounds a bit cliche now. But telling a kid they have potential is, I think, absolutely perfect. I think that's a great thing, because when you follow it up with, and it's okay if you never reach that potential.
Right.
Right?
Or just like this idea of like, yeah, you have potential, but like, what are you tying that to?
Well, let me go back real quick to just tie that last thing up with a nice little knot, because I didn't complete what I was talking about before in terms of like, so if you're forcing something and it's not okay that you don't succeed, what you're telling yourself is that the person who doesn't succeed is not worthy of love.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's you're re-ingraining this idea that if you don't accomplish this, then you don't get
you're not worthy of love. You don't get attention. You don't get love. So what do we do to the part of us that says we don't want, we're unworthy of the success? And like, what do we do with that? If we push it aside and we say, no, all we're focusing on is the positive, all we're focusing on this, then what you're doing is that spot in you is now unseen, is unheard. So what is it going to want to do? It's going to want to tap you on the shoulder and go, hey, I'm here. I'm insecure. I'm not feeling good. I don't know if I could be limitless potential. What if we don't succeed on this, and that becomes something that you're resisting, and anything you resist persists.
Right.
So going back to like the whole idea of potential is phenomenal, because it's going to give somebody the ability to step outside of where they currently are to see something that is not there yet. And it's very hard for people to do that because you're not going to see who you are.
Right.
Right? It's impossible, really. And to feel who you are when you're there. But it's also important to back it up with the idea that if you go pursue this thing, say it is a medical school student, or you're going to go try to lose 100 pounds, go do it with all of your heart and all of your focus. However, if you fail, you're still loved.
Right. Yeah. Well, then it'll allow you to pursue it with less resistance.
Potentially. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the yin and yang of masculine and feminine energy has a play in that as well. But I think the world needs a little bit more balance, right? I think it needs a little bit more feminine energy.
Well, I think there's so much of force, like you were saying last week, like grind won't stop. People who are spending X amount of hours like grinding it out, they're forcing because you know what, when you force, you give yourself this false feeling of that you're doing something. It's the idea of when you're anxious and have anxiety. Let's say there's an issue. By being anxious and having anxiety about it, it almost gives you comfort because at least you're worrying about it, as opposed to it gives you this false feeling that you're accomplishing something by at least worrying about it, as opposed to letting the solution come to you, or being confident in the fact that if you're going to allow just kind of to trust the process in a way. But it's like counterintuitive to what is kind of we've at least what I've experienced, in that it's just like when a problem arises or there's some type of issue at work or anything like that, let me worry about it, because at least like I'm doing something about it in that way.
Yeah, it's the same thing about complaining. Complaining doesn't do anything.
Right.
Most cases, complaining does nothing. If you're using, I think there's a difference between raising awareness and complaining. Mm-hmm. Complaining is the false sense that you voicing yourself is actually making a change, which does not. Complaining has never changed anything.
Mm-hmm.
Raising awareness has changed everything.
Right.
Right? If you need to go to the bathroom, how do you know? You're aware that your bladder's full. Right? It's not because you were complaining about your bladder being full. You just knew it was full and you went and you emptied your bladder. Right? It's awareness. How did Dr. Martin Luther King shift in a lot of ways the black community and the way we saw African Americans in this country? He marched and said, like, we are people. We are human beings just like you. There's no difference other than the color of our skin. There's no difference. And once people became aware of that, they started looking at themselves and they go, wait a second, what is within myself that I'm not looking at that these people are plucking a cord with? And that's where we started seeing a shift there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a really good distinction, this difference between complaining and raising awareness. And it's kind of like a fine line, but I think we can all observe when someone is complaining and when someone is raising awareness, and it's through nuance and context and with the situation. And that's so much of like all this stuff. It's all nuance and context.
Yeah.
Right. Uh-huh. Like you were saying, like the potential, like, potential is great, but it's like nuance and context behind it. Because if somebody's has this false expectation of, because I'm not becoming a doctor, I'm not living into my true potential. Or if I'm not this amazing music artist and I haven't sold 1 million albums, then I never lived into my potential. I never became famous. I never lived into my true potential. So it's like, like in that instance, in that context, potential probably was almost a self-sabotage for that person.
Yeah.
But and the other idea, if somebody, like you said, is like, wow, like right now I'm going through some shit, but I know I have potential. So let me like get to work. Let me put in the hours studying, and then I get into school, and then boom, I'm now found this subject that I love, and I now have at a job that I've loved. And if it wasn't for somebody telling me that I did have potential and I could believe in myself, then in that context, it was extremely helpful. So it's like all of this stuff is kind of nuance and context. It's neither good nor bad. And I think the more you can become aware of the situation, the more helpful it'll become.
Think about it this way also, is like, what do you feel when someone tells you have a lot of potential?
For me, it makes you feel special.
Okay. Is that a higher vibration or a lower vibration?
For me, higher.
Yeah. So if someone comes to you and says, also, what if they said, why are you at this job? You have so much potential.
That's a lower vibration.
Exactly.
For sure.
So everything is going to kind of like bounce off you in a certain way. And I think ultimately what we need to do is whatever like string is plucked when that happens, we're there to see and love whatever happens.
Right.
Right. So if you were to tell me, Sean, you have a ton of potential, the first thing I think about is like, and I'm not fulfilling it now, fuck you.
Right.
Like my reaction is like to go right back at you. So why? Because I don't feel like what I'm doing wholeheartedly is what I should be doing. Right? If it plucks a chord, there's probably truth to it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
for sure. So yeah, so if somebody said right now, like, Sean, like, you have so much potential. You know, what are you doing down in Florida? Whatever.
Well, let me give you a
Like,
good example. Is I had someone who I was working with and business wise, and they say, "Listen, I just want to let you know, like, you're fucking so talented. Like, if you were to just be a gym owner, that would be a shame." I'm like, "Who the fuck are you to say that?"
mm-hmm.
So, but that being said, I could just say,
Because,
"Yeah, screw
sorry.
them, whatever," or I could be like, "Let me actually sit with what this is and see what like tries to come up."
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when I sit with that and what comes up is fear, fear that what I'm doing right now isn't enough or that I'm not on the right path,
Yeah.
right? Fear that they might be right and I might be wrong. And all of those things are ultimately illusions that my mind kind of creates, and I'm just the viewer of all this stuff. But that still doesn't mean that it's not like real in my mind, right?
Right.
So as soon as I let those things come to light and I actually, in a sense, talk about those things, they dissolve, and then you're just left with this moment again.
Right.
And then in this moment, that's where we can actually make a distinct decision of like making a next step in our life. Or is there something to actually make a decision and to do? Because a lot of the times people will pluck a chord in us and they will irk us. And then we're like, oh, well, I'm going to tell them a piece of my mind. And then you allow that thing to like come up, you allow it to dissolve. And then you're like, for what? Like, I don't need to say anything. This person's just venting, or maybe they're just an asshole. Do I need to say anything? Do I need to tell them they're wrong? No, my ego needed to tell them they were wrong, so that it felt like it was back into one of those I'm more than you kind of things.
Right. Well, another thing in that scenario that you were saying is, like, when that person does say, like, hey, what are you doing? You're just, if you just were just a gym owner, that'd be a shame. Then for you, it's like, okay, I take that, and you take that in, and you're like, all right, what like message is this person trying to send me or tell me? Is that I have a gift, and by being a gym owner, I'm just hamstringing that gift. I can't make as much of an impact on as many people as possible. And then for you, the person receiving that, or if, like, let's say I was receiving that, my instinct, if I was to, then I would try to start, okay, so how do I make a bigger impact, or like, how do I start to force this, but rather than being like, all right, if this person is saying is true, then ultimately I will find my way into living into that. And if I try to force it, it's just going to have me spinning in circles.
So let me
So, like,
ask you.
yeah,
So let me ask you this: how do you step into that?
I think by looking inward.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's if you like continue to live, you know, if you kind of like have, for me, it's like making your principles and and living into them.
Yep.
And showing up in whatever you're doing, like just being 100% authentic and showing up in the world, and letting your authentic you kind of shine through. Like, that's how you're going to be able to allow basically the universe to take care of it, and live into that, as opposed to I need to start figuring this out, or
Yeah.
having anxiety.
As soon as you try to make $1 million business, you're basically setting yourself up for failure, because even if you get that $1 million business, who you are and who your nervous system and what your nervous system can tolerate isn't $1 million business, because you are the $40,000 a year guy.
Right.
So to prove it to your nervous system, you have to start taking actions that recalibrate your nervous system to say, wait, we are $1 million person. And then it becomes normal.
Right.
Do you think like Mark Zuckerberg feels weird walking around with billions of dollars in his bank account? I don't know.
I don't think so either.
I don't know. And maybe he is, but I wouldn't say, I would say that he wouldn't have that wealth very long if he didn't.
Right.
So there's a good example that we use all the time, but it's like, there's a reason why people who win the lottery go broke. And it's not just because they have poor financial planning or that they have family members who steal their money or whatever it is. It's because when you win the lottery, you haven't changed.
Right.
Your circumstances have changed, but you have not.
Right. So the person, you still believe yourself as that, like you said, $40,000 a year person. And it probably feels very, very uncomfortable
Yep.
to have that amount of money. So you start doing ridiculous things with it because the $40,000 you is the more comfortable person to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, so how we kind of like all started with this was like expectation. And yeah, it was very, I don't know, I was just thinking about it more because it's like, I got my MBA almost 5 years ago now.
Yep.
And it's like looking at the position I am in now.
Yep.
And like the whole idea of, expectations and potential. And it's like, at this point, like you could call me a personal trainer. Like I am okay. Like there's part of me that's still like,
Are you really okay with that?
No, probably not.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about that. So if I say you're a personal trainer, what does that make you feel like?
It feels constrictive, and the impact that I'm making. I feel like I just get lumped into a label where I imagine what a personal trainer is, and everything, all the content out there, and what I see, like other, just like the personal trainer, like the larger percentage of what I see in personal trainers is something that doesn't sit well with me. Like I wouldn't want to be that.
Yep. Are you that?
No.
Okay. So what do you think? What do you feel the issue is then? Take a second with that.
I think it goes back to this idea of like not being okay with like the idea of like, oh, I'm just a personal trainer.
Yeah.
It's like
So again, is that real? Is that something that is a truth?
No.
That it's more of a belief, right?
Right.
So with beliefs, they're fleeting. They come, they go. So they're just there to be seen. They're there to be heard. They're there to be loved. You can't force it. You can't force love. You can't force the time it takes them to be seen. But you just give it the light and the space that it needs, and then it goes. Your awareness is what will bring the truth.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, all of this stuff is going on in your head or in front of you is all from your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're just the observer of all those things anyway, but we react as if those things are real.
Right.
And most people have all the proof in the world right in front of them that it is not real and it is not true, yet they don't want to accept that. They'd rather accept the reality that they have in their mind because that reality is the consistency that they've had for the last 10, 30, 50 years.
Yeah.
Right? And kind of bringing it full circle from last week, like, do you think mom and dad are like, oh, sorry, forget that.
Okay.
The value. What's your value? And we talked about that a few weeks ago. Like, what is your value? Is your value your bank account, or is your value who you are?
Right.
Like what you are, and who you are as a spirit.
Right.
Because if you took away every dollar that Jay-Z made or
Mm-hmm.
Beyonce made or Oprah made, you took every dollar away from them, would they have any problem in the next year
Making it
accumulating
right
that
back.
wealth again?
No.
Probably not, right?
Mm-mm.
Why?
Oh man, because they have years of they've built within them this expectations of confidence and the ability to reach people, and it's just who they are now.
Is it an expectation?
No, it's a being.
It's a truth.
Yeah, it's truth. Yeah.
Their truth is that I'm a fucking millionaire. My bank account
Right.
might not say it, but I'm a millionaire. Why? Because I've done all of the things to convince my nervous system that's who I am. Why don't you
Right.
live on the street, Tyler?
Why don't I live
Why
on the
don't
street?
I live on the street? Like, why am I a bum? Because that's a little bit more like for everyone, right? Why don't I live on the street and why am I not a bum?
because that's I imagine because you grew up in a home and you lived in a home and you've known that all your life. So you're not you live in a home. You're not a homeless person. You have people out there who love you, and if you did need a home, you could just crash on their couch.
Crash on someone's couch. Or if you lost this job, would you be able to get like a regular job where you could just at least make ends meet?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely you could. So your nervous system is calibrated to one in which living on the street is never an option.
Right.
In the same way that Eminem, or I'll give you a better example, Elon Musk, his nervous system is calibrated in which being a billionaire is never an option, not an option.
Right.
Like he's success. That's all he knows.
Right.
And I think that's what's so important, to be surrounding yourself with people who are of that mindset in some capacity. Being on that vibration with other people that think that feel that same way, because that will supercharge the nervous system into understanding that this is normal to be this way. You see it in weight rooms. You see it in sports facilities. You see it in schools. Why do Harvard students always, why are they always the smartest? Because that is in the nervous system of everybody who attends that if you are here, you are an elite.
Right.
Right? It's not because of the bank account. It's not because of the books you have. It's because regardless of any of those things, you are one of the smartest people on the planet because you made it here.
Right.
And if you're feeling like I could never make it to Harvard, that's the reason why you're not in Harvard, because your nervous system is calibrated to, I'm a state school kid. But if you really wanted to become a Harvard, like if that was your purpose and you thought like one way or the other, I'm going to do it. And if I don't do it, no big deal, because that's not who I am. To step into that, you're going to have to recalibrate your nervous system and perform actions, not just say them, but perform actions that are consistent with someone who goes to Harvard. And what would that look like?
With someone who goes to Harvard, actions would be, let's say you were trying to go to Harvard Medical School, your actions would be aligned. You study 4 or 5 hours a day. You wake up same time every day. You are passionate. You about the human body. You have this. You're just driven or consumed with the puzzle of the human body. Like that, or I'm trying to think more actions that a medical Harvard student would take.
All right, so let me pause. You ready? We're going to change this whole thing. Tell me what a nationally known, successful fitness, wellness, and transformation coach does on a regular basis.
Okay. Yeah, because now it's more in the realm of my wheelhouse here.
So just
now
feel
I can get more
that.
accurate.
Feel that for a second, and then move from that space.
Okay. Let's see. So that person's waking up and they've got like a list of clients that they're going to go see, or they
Where are you moving
where-
from right now?
thought. I'm not moving from. I'm like moving more logic. I'm trying to like logic it out.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly. And how does it sound?
working. It sounds choppy, resistant, and
Yeah.
stagnant.
Okay. So right now, you're going to say, I am a world famous fitness coach.
I am a world famous fitness coach.
Okay. Now, you are going to go through your everyday of life from start to finish, coming from that space that you are a world class fitness coach, and go with more of the feeling, less of the doing. Because, yeah, everybody does the same shit every morning. I got up, I brushed my teeth, I looked at my fucking emails, then I did this. But what is the intention behind that? What is the feeling behind that?
So, I mean, that person knows that they have a gift.
Who's that person?
The world famous fitness coach, or I could say myself.
Oh, yeah, you could say that. So you are now a world famous fitness coach who has 1 million followers on Instagram and Twitter. You're making $1 million a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does your everyday look like? And it could be any possibility. There's no wrong answers. As big as you want.
All right. And are we getting more into like the doing or still the feeling?
Anything you want, whatever feels right for you.
Okay. Let's say I meet with like my team.
Okay.
I have like a team with me that and we're coming up with like projects of, okay, we have this seminar coming up and we have 250 people coming. So how are we going to deliver on to every one of these attendees that they're going to get something out of this, that their life is going to be changed by coming to this seminar. So I'm working with my team on that, and then I have a few clients who I'm going to talk to like virtually, and we're working on personal development stuff, or it could be whatever. It could be and then I'm training myself, and then I'm I'm listening to either podcasts or books in the fitness industry, and then I'm talking and meeting with people in the industry to keep testing and refining my thoughts and beliefs, and to make sure that whatever I'm delivering is going to make the most impact and have the impact that I want it to have.
Okay. So does that excite you?
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10 right now, 10 being I'm fucking on fire and 1 being like I don't feel anything. What did that exercise do for you?
I would say it was like an 8 or a 9.
Really?
I still, yeah.
It didn't sound like it, but hey, if that's what you felt, yeah. Do you mind if I supercharge you?
Sure, supercharge me.
Okay, so obviously it's very hard for us to see ourselves in a way where we don't have our story involved. That's why
Right.
it's so easy to give other people advice that we should be taking ourselves.
Sure.
Because we feel and know and think about the old story, and we can't make a story for ourselves, which is why it helps to have other people around us. That makes sense?
Right. Well,
So-
we're seeing through like a shitty, like gunked up,
Of
like
course.
windshield. We got all that shit on our windshield.
That's exactly right. So I can see limitless potential in you. Why? Because I don't see your gummed up windshield. I see limitless potential. And there goes that word again.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is great. So I know that you wake up at 6:30 a.m. every morning without an alarm clock, Tyler. And the first thing that you do is you get up in the morning and you don't check your phone. You don't do anything. You just sit there for 10 minutes and you think about all the things that you're grateful for. Because you know that when you wake up in the morning and you're grateful and you come from that place, everything else starts to line up so nicely. And then you wake up in the morning and you cook your eggs and you cook all this great food for yourself, and you take your time and you eat it. And that is your half hour in the morning. You shower, you shave, and then you get on a conference call with your team. And the team is so jazzed up. They're so fired up because everybody's in the same mind state, because they did all the things that they needed to do in the morning so that they're ready to go to help each other, because this team is a team. It's not just individuals. And you got on that call and you said, hey, Tyler, oh, by the way, we had to open up another venue because the old venue was too small. We had 1,000 people at your next seminar. And then we were like, yo, everybody on the same page of how we're going to do this? Yes, the camera crew is there. We got the freaking venue booked. We got all the content, and all your assistants have all the content lined up of what you're going to be doing throughout the entire seminar. It's a 2-day seminar. People are flying in from all around the world to come to this seminar to hear you speak about all this transformation and exercise and all these things that are going to change their lives. Not only that, but there's also fitness trainers from all around the world who come in and talk to you and listen to you talk. 1,000 people are going to be showing up at this venue. And then from there, in the afternoon, that's when you actually get to work with one-on-one clients, and they fly in from all around the country to work with you, and you charge them $500 an hour because that is exactly what you're worth, and it allows them to be able to use your time wisely. So you do that, and then you're also having a camera crew follow you around, because then that also puts together your Instagram content and your Twitter content, and you also have a website that you actually hired 2 or 3 people to run, and now you have a camera crew. You have a person who does all your social media platforms, because that frees you up to be with your clients and not have to worry about posting stuff. And then later in the afternoon, you take an hour to do whatever you want. Each day you do something amazingly fun. You go rock climbing, you go for a walk, you go walk with your dogs, because now you have this huge apartment on the Upper East Side and they have a dog walking facility in the middle of it. And then you go with your girlfriend out to a beautiful meal early in the evening, and you get to hang out and enjoy yourself. And then in the evening, you do a little one-on-one post with your entire community, and then that community can come and watch and see exactly what you're talking about. And the energy that you have is so contagious because you're authentic, you're vulnerable. You're not doing this from a place of what can I get? You're doing it from a place of what I can give. And then you go back into 10 minutes of feeling things that you're grateful for the day. You shut out the lights and you enjoy a peaceful sleep.
That's nice.
What does that feel like to you?
That feels like a 10.
It's so much easier to do this, right, with another person.
Right.
And this is something that we practice, or I've learned from Kyle Cease. It's called Kyle Ego, where you're basically imagine yourself a year out from a point and you got there. And it helps, again, with the ideas of possibilities. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So we definitely really got to quickly wrap this up. But next week we'll talk about, I'll keep continuing on with my thing. But Tyler, how's your no cookiness been?
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's been going good. I made it a week.
Made it a week.
Yeah.
Do you want to go a little longer, or do you want the cookie?
Not quite yet. I think I'm gonna still keep Well, what's really been helpful with this is that I have been better with being mindful of when I'm full at night.
Yeah.
So it's like I haven't been in that feeling of I ate too much.
So that's a pretty amazing thing. The fact that when you took the cookie out, it pushed you into who you need to be, right? To be a more mindful eater.
Right, exactly. Or took the idea of dessert off the table. It made me really look into, okay, I need to eat and make sure I check in. Am I full? Do I need more food? Do I really want more food? Oh no, I am full. Okay.
Yeah. Or do I need something tasting sweet because I need it?
Right, exactly.
If you need it, it's probably not good for you.
That's right. What about you? What about your
So I picked up being kind and forgiving to myself. So basically giving myself a break for a week. Believe it or not, the week has been going very well. I'm not at a 10, but I think part of the resistance is are you okay not being at a 10? So that's exposed. So I'm spending time being more okay with that side of it, just kind of checking in with that and allowing that to be, because that's the only resistance that keeps me from a 10. There's no circumstance in my life now that's preventing me from being a 10 other than my own story.
Mm-hmm.
right? And checking in with those things and allowing those pieces to dissolve. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely in a better place, and I'm going to continue on giving myself a break. Every time I pick something up, I just say, you know what, today I'm giving myself a break. That's my deal.
Where did, and I don't know how much longer you have, maybe like a minute or two, but real quickly, like where did you find an example of just where you were being, I guess, hard on yourself in a way, or being
Being
self criticizing in a way?
Yeah,
Is that what we're
self-criticizing,
kind of
or even like nonsensically being hard on myself for something,
okay?
right? So
Like
like if I'm like, if I tell a person like, hey, this is so if a person shows up 10 minutes late to class, I would
mm,
be like, I would passively aggressively say something to them. But like this week I was like, yo, it's not cool that you're 10 minutes late. This is your final warning. If you do it again, we're going to have to address that problem when we get there. And then afterward, I'm like, oh, I really shouldn't have said that. I'm like, you know what? I'm giving myself a break right now. I'm
right,
allowed to feel that way,
right.
you know?
How did the person and that happened? You told that person,
Yeah, I am, but they may not. It's not as much about what they think as what
right,
I believe and what my truth
right,
is. Right? That's all you really can control. If you feel like you're coming from a space of truth, it may not come out the best way, but at least you're going in the direction, and then you just get practice.
right, right.
If you
So
never try
delivering
to,
that,
if you never try, I don't want to say confrontation, but if you never try to assert yourself, how do you actually learn how to assert yourself?
right, right. Yeah, which I imagine for you, like for me, that's very, very challenging, extremely challenging. And I imagine it's very similar for you. Just the whole confrontation piece about what you were saying a couple weeks ago with other people for sure. But yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably good for this week there, Tyler. You got anything else?
That no, that's all.
Okay.
We'll
How
pick
can we
back
reach
up
you?
next week. Reach me at on Instagram T_FLO_fitness. I imagine I'm going to start posting on there more frequently within the next week because I'll be starting my online coaching accelerator, which deals with Instagram. So I'm excited about that.
Congratulations on that, my friend. And I will give a shout out to Savannah Bastecki, who created our new logo for this podcast. I really appreciate it. She does awesome logo design. She did all my logos for Flock Fitness and for CrossFit Delray Beach. If you need me, guys, you can get me at Flock Fitness, FLOCH Fitness. That's my Instagram handle. And I also have flockfitness.com for all sorts of content and program design and all that kind of stuff. Guys, please get online and go to iTunes and rate this podcast and leave a review. That helps people find the podcast and it'll help grow this flock. Tyler, I'll talk to you next week, buddy.
All right. Talk to you next week.
Love you, buddy.
Love it. Bye.
Bye.